From Russian oligarchs
to Roman emperors.
This week we're reviewing both Gladiator films and Anora.
This is the Film Angle.
Welcome to the Film Angle, a podcast where we dive deep into the latest releases and unearth the classics to better our cinephilic curiosity. I'm Alex.
And I'm Kris.
Let's get into it. This is our first somewhat normal episode in what feels like a very long time.
And I tell you what, it's making me feel very relaxed.
Yeah, I know, right? I know what you mean. I'm like comfortable right now, ready to talk about the latest releases.
Yeah.
Though it is just latest releases. I guess we haven't done a sight and sound film in a while, and we haven't done a sight and sound film here either. So almost back to normal.
It's like we're getting a little bit we're not getting sidetracked.
No.
We're definitely just expanding our horizons. But yeah, I think once everything dies down a little bit more, we'll be back on the track and focus. We'll actually finish the series, i.e. the BFI film top 100 list. We need to get that done.
Yeah, we do. We said
not in a bad way, not like get it out of the way, but like it needs to, some continuity for God's sake.
Absolutely. And I think we said 2 years ago, we were like, it'll be done within the year.
Yeah, you have my word.
Yeah, we weren't very good at that. I don't even want to promise that it'll be done next year, but looking at the amount of films left, it should easily be done next year.
I mean, it should.
It
right?
should, but I just don't want to say it. But, we've had a few different specials. We've collaborated with a few people. We've interviewed some people, which has been, we just didn't want to say no to the opportunities that have come about. When we did the reboot and our 100th episode, I guess, we rebooted before our 100th episode.
Yeah,
with the new logos, thanks to Alfie. We said what our aspirations were for the podcast.
Yeah,
and within 15 episodes, we've had people on, we've interviewed people, we've done festival coverage. I would say,
yeah,
goal set, goal met. Pretty cool.
If anything, it's about time we had a new release sort of episode, because I there's so many movies coming out the rest of this year, or movies have already been out. And this is like the first year in a while, even though the podcast has kind of been, more coherent and more constant this year than I feel like it has been. I feel like I'm more behind on films than I ever have been.
Whereas I am very ahead because I saw all of the end of the year's latest releases within 4 days.
January is going to be an absolute breeze for you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's true. But I mean, that kind of leads us in to a film that you've now caught up on. Did we want to jump into Anora?
Yeah, we want to talk about Anora because you obviously got to see it when you were at the film festival in London, and you very graciously didn't want to spoil it for me because you knew it'd be a film that I would potentially probably like. Yeah. And that potentially probably like turned into, I really, really like this movie.
Definitely. And I will say, just because we've picked up some new listeners recently, if you're new here, we do go in depth into films. And one of the reasons I wanted to kind of bring Anora back up again was to talk specifically about a few kind of plot details with you.
Sure.
But any new listeners, if you haven't seen Anora, jump on it. We like to go a little bit more in depth in the podcast, so we will talk about specifics. And do you know what? Screw it. I'm going to be talking about the ending. I want to talk about the ending with you, Kris. But
has to be said.
Let's get into it. Anora is about a young sex worker from Brooklyn who kind of impulsively marries the son of a Russian oligarch, and then once his parents found out, he's very spoiled little brat, some would say.
Yeah, that becomes a bigger thing later on, but yeah, sure.
But yeah, the film turns into something a bit more as the kind of fairy tale is dampened by the parents finding out and wanting the marriage to be annulled. Yeah, obviously, I got to see this at the London Film Festival earlier this year. I thought it was absolutely fantastic and brilliantly funny. I'm a big Sean Baker fan.
Hmm.
I think out of his films, I will probably go on a limb and say Florida Project is maybe my favorite of his. I
Yeah.
don't know about you,
Okay.
Chris.
Um, I would like to revisit Florida Project, but that is a sort of a different beast. Although he is
Oh
like,
yeah,
yeah, it's much more heavily invested in the emotional aspect of these characters, and this is still, but I would say like it's his most polished, accomplished film. I would say
yes,
Anora definitely feels like, okay, I'm definitely here, and one or two films more, I'm probably going to be in the public conscience. I'm getting to that level now.
yeah.
Um,
There's like a maturity to the pacing, and there's like some real proper comedic kind of timing. And then there's not to say that weren't in his previous films, but like that, I think he definitely had the indie charm. Whereas this feels
yeah,
very much more like a very polished, a filmmaker at the height of their kind of, I know what I'm doing. I know how to get a laugh physically,
100%.
emotionally, all that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, it is a great film. It is a great film.
Yeah,
Um,
it's hilarious, but like, so the whole thing about this film is that, and I think it's something that Sean Baker does really well, is the whole disarming the audience. Um, I've seen the trailer, and the trailer is nothing like I think the final film. I don't know if you agree with that, where it kind of feels like it does feel like the fairy tale aspect of being
oh yeah.
wrapped up in this whole journey, but the trailer feels to explain how fucking funny this movie is.
Yes, yeah, because I was very surprised how funny it was. It
Hmm.
doesn't present it as a full blown comedy. It
It's a
makes it
movie of
seem
two
fun.
halves. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
feel like the advertising changed a bit though. So I feel like
Okay.
early trailers were very much like this is a film of two halves, like the fairy tale gets ruined. But I think in the run up to release, I don't know about you, but everything I was getting pushed was like bright colors, fairy tale romance, you know, Pink Pony Club was playing, and I
Yeah.
thought,
Yeah,
"Oh,
yeah,
I see what they're doing. They actually want the whiplash of this being a film of very two different kind of feelings to be more of a thing." Whereas I felt like I had seen the first like couple of trailers for this a long time ago, so I kind of knew
yeah.
that whiplash was coming. But I feel maybe for general audiences who are only seeing these small snippets that are being presented to them on Instagram, it's quite a fun way of doing it. To be honest, I kind
Like,
of wish I hadn't known. But then again, I knew Sean Baker wasn't just going to make a fun looking rom com. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But you're right.
yeah.
The comedy is missing from those trailers.
And yeah, and like the first half of the film is funny. It's still, even though I saw the trailers, it still caught me off guard. I don't know why, but and it's not jarring. Like, I feel Baker just completely earns everything. I think he's sort of even though I think the movie's hilarious, but managing it manages to retain its message and bring you back down to earth when you least expect it. So, and in the hands of another filmmaker, that could be really hard to pull off. But Baker, I think at this point, is a director who can make you feel exactly how he wants you to feel, because there's something so undeniably human about how his filmmaking, how he presents characters. He has one foot in Hollywood farce, and the
Mm,
other is still in that indie space.
yeah,
And he manages to exist in both of those sides of the camp. And he's just, it's like, not, I wouldn't say master manipulator, but I feel that the guy can't do wrong. I feel like he will make you feel exactly how he intends to. I don't think he's a filmmaker who lacks any precision. It's
that's
very hard
true.
to pick apart his work.
Very true. Very true. And there was something like very old school Hollywood about the comedy in this as well. Like
Yeah,
it was quite physical at
it's a
times.
slapstick.
It
Yeah.
is a slapstick. I think if I was to kind of maybe, the running theme of maybe a slight criticism throughout his films
Okay.
is his endings. Some I love, some I'm like, oh, I'm not sure what you're doing here. And I feel like this is another one. I know. I think this is intentional. I don't think Sean Baker's bad at endings, but I think he wants to leave you thinking about the ending rather than tightening it up on a really neat bow.
Yeah.
Um, I found the one thing whenever I spoke to anybody about Anora in London was the ending. What did you think? And there were lots of different kind of feelings about it. What did you think of the ending, Chris? That is what I want to know, because obviously I couldn't
Well,
get into that with you.
okay. So immediately from what you're kind of dressing this up to be, I imagine those reactions that you heard were mixed to negative, right?
I
I
did hear one positive, and I'll
okay.
go. I'll get into it.
Well, whoever they were, I probably agree with them. I think I think the moment at the end is a real barn stumper. I think it's a real hit you over the head moment, but like it really feels earned, and I think that's really due, Alex, to Mikey Madison's performance. I think she is just absolutely going for it and giving incredible performances. You know, as this exotic dancer who you can't help but root for even from the beginning of the story, and I absolutely love like what it does different to what those sort of films in the 80s and early 90s in Hollywood blockbusters, like Your Pretty Woman and, you know, all these sort of films who are like obsessed with making a man's fantasy out of the, you know, the hooker with the heart of gold. You know, that's a subgenre that ever existed. Instead, Mikey Madison sort of just remains feisty. She's always quite a resilient person. And even though the film throws endless ups and downs for her, she never really fully crumbles and has that sort of strength that somebody like her has probably had to deal with her entire adult life. So to have this final moment where it just all kind of gets too much, or she actually experiences some, you know, human reality out of somebody else that she wasn't expecting to. It's the only part of the movie that feels real, and yeah, I thought it was oddly earned. I didn't expect it.
Interesting. Ah, that's a really nice way of putting it, Chris. Because I think I left feeling slightly mixed on it in terms of we've seen her be this really strong character throughout who's stuck to her guns.
Yeah.
And in this moment, kind of returning to using her body, I was very mixed on that. I didn't know how to feel. Like it didn't feel right to me in the moment.
Hmm.
And I don't know if I still believe that, because having spoken to people, I do find it quite interesting. But yeah, some people, I heard some people talking about it on the bus home. I was just eavesdropping, and one of them, and these were women, so like it's fair to say, like, you know, when women are talking about a woman's stories, it is more kind of, you know, it was interesting to hear the two sides. One of them was very much like, I'm sick of seeing the sad sex worker story, and I feel like it ended yet again with another sad sex worker story.
Mm.
And I thought it was really interesting because I was kind of like, yeah, that maybe I think I felt a little bit that way as well. And then her friend went ahead and said, I saw it as her kind of reclaiming some power in this situation. You know, like she was getting on top of this guy and she was kind of reclaiming some of her own, you know, she was doing it by her choice. She wasn't being paid for it. Like it was reclaiming some power within the situation. So I just thought that those were like two interesting elements. And then everybody else I chatted to actually chatted to rather than just eavesdropping on conversations like a
Yeah.
weirdo. Yeah, they were kind of like, yeah, it gave me something to think about, and I wasn't sure I loved it, but like it doesn't dampen the whole film for me. But I think you actually, I think you had a really nice way of putting it there, Chris. I will say.
Well, I think that your overhearing of those conversations are kind of yeah the polite way.
You loser.
I think your moment of being an absolute creep um, absolutely highlighted what makes the movie work. I mean, I think Baker is a filmmaker who, while he obviously wants to give you such a great fun ride watching this movie and watching these characters and all the other stuff that's sort of included with that, I think he really does want you to go home and think about it and not be kind of like skipping out the cinema. I think that's sort of like you know that's interesting, right? I mean,
Yeah,
obviously that's what it created for those group of people, and I'm sure many other people walking out. But yeah, and yeah, you're so right. It's worth, you know, validating the experience. You know, especially women who are experiencing the genre, what they think of it, as opposed to, you know, some Northern Irish guy who's 28 years old. But from my experience, I didn't see it as dampening her character. I thought it strengthened her and made her more, you know, it made her. It definitely was the veneer kind of lifted off a character we'd seen used sex as a mechanism in the entire film. So it was just very interesting. And there's
Mm.
still a little bit of cloudiness as to what that ending means. There's no clear cut
Yeah.
answer to that, and I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, I think Sean Baker is very good at that. Like a lot of his endings, I don't think this one was so much, but previous films like Red Rocket, Florida Project. I'm trying to remember
I
how
still need to see Red Rocket, man. I heard it's so good.
they. I'm trying to remember how Tangerine ended as well. I can't fully remember, but at least for
Hmm.
those two films, there's almost like a fantastical element to the ending where you're like,
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
of
yeah.
course.
So like,
Fairy tale realism is his thing, I suppose, isn't it?
yeah, 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 yeah. So I must say, the ending, as much as I was a little bit mixed, I was like, "Ooh, what's going on?" And I do think it hits the brakes quite heavy in those final like 15, 20 minutes. You get because it is quite a
Yeah.
long film. You get Mikey Madison and Yura Borisov in the mansion together, just kind of chatting. And it like compared to the rest of the film, this is like very much like, oh, you've piled the brakes on fully. So I think my feelings on the final 10 to 15 minutes were like, maybe this feels a little bit at odds with the rest of the film,
Mm.
but like again, I'm not.
Because
It's still one of my favorite films of the year.
I guess because he's commenting on how strange and bizarre the whole scenario is, right? It's like
Mm,
as soon as the whole comedy of error things happens, when Ivan's parents, their grunts, kind of come to the house to kind of collect him and do the forced annulment. That whole like I thought that was going to be like 10 minutes of the movie. And then it
mm,
went on, and then it went on, and it went on to the point to deliriousness. Like I thought I was going mad, but in a really good way. Like it was
yeah.
just like this comedy, this whole like Three Stooges Home Alone sequence at times just kept getting longer and longer and longer. And we're going to the streets, we're batting glass windows and candy shops with baseball bats, and like, where are we going? This is brilliant.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, credit to those three actors who played Toros, Garnick, and Igor. Like that was just probably the best comedy trio of the year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very funny, very
very,
very funny.
really, really funny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm glad you liked it. I had a feeling you might, just because it was such a crowd pleaser.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, you're right. Like, apart from that conversation that people will obviously have at the end of the film, I think as long as you're not prudish, or you're not turned off by the idea of the film's content, I think anybody could enjoy this film. I think it is a real crowd pleaser, isn't it?
yeah, and just because I heard Sean Baker say this at the film,
Oh,
he
right,
did say
okay.
he wanted his intention here was to make like a blockbuster for adults. He was
I can
like,
see it. Yeah,
"You deserve adult films about
yeah.
adult themes."
And I
And
still don't know if the film has really garnered that reception it deserves. Still, I don't see people on the lowdown talking about Anora as much as I really, apart from this sort of circle that we're in now, and podcasting,
it's
and
true.
it's
I
it,
saw a
it,
lot of marketing for it, but it doesn't seem to have reached the Office conversation yet.
which it should. I think if The Office did watch it, I think everybody would be absolutely going, "Did you see that movie? It's absolutely crazy. It's brilliant."
Yeah,
You
I
know,
feel like
um,
this will have a second life, especially if it does. They're predicting it to do at least get some pretty big nominations from the Oscars. Whether it'll win them, I don't know. But
yeah,
obviously, it won Cannes, so it's and it's quite a different film to win the Cannes Film Festival as well. So like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's got some it's got some bona fide accolades to it. I think potentially when the Oscar conversation kicks up a gear, it might have a second life.
And I'm going to say it now because we're on a high. I would slot it somewhere in my top, potentially 5 of the year.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I think it's right. It's in there.
Obviously we still have a little bit of time left,
Oh
but
well, yeah.
yes, it would probably
It's just how bad this
slot
year has
into
been
that
for
as well.
me. It's near the end of November now, right? And I probably will still see. I still probably have 50% of the films I will watch for the rest of the year still to watch in the next 2 months. I probably, yeah, it's crazy. I've got loads of catching up to do, but I love it. I love this season.
Yeah, to be honest, like I thought, because I probably not watched as many films after coming back from London. But all of a sudden, I've got this
Burnt
urge.
out.
I've got this urge to just watch more films again. Like,
Consume. It's those cool. It's those horrible black winter nights. It's just you want to
yeah.
you want to
I
cozy up.
did get a new TV, and it's
Yes,
gonna look
you
real
got
nice on that new TV.
you got a new TV twice, which
Well,
sounds more interesting than the actual story is. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, some of us are very particular about any slight indication of an error on the screen, and there's just something catching my eye. Consumer rights and all. I returned it, and I have a better screen now.
Absolutely. Well, we're glad for you, Alex.
Yeah, it's very boring for anybody else.
No, it means you can podcast better now.
Yeah, I don't know how because the TV is not where I podcast.
You can see film better now.
Yeah, to be honest, I am seeing film better now. That is for sure.
Okay.
I didn't realize just how broken my last TV was. All right. Let's move on. The next film, or should I say two films on our list, because we're talking both films, because for myself, I had never seen Ridley Scott's Gladiator up until the other day. And Chris, I believe you were a pretty big fan of Gladiator 1.
Look, I don't know what happened in your life, Alex, that you didn't get to see Gladiator at any point in your life, because I've met your dad. Your dad's like my dad, it's a movie that sons and kids and daughters watch with their dads. It's one of those movies. It's
Okay.
it was on my TV perpetually as a kid.
Well, I'll bring it up to him, all right? But you
That's
leave my
okay.
dad out of the podcast.
No, we love Rich, but I don't know. Something went amiss there.
Well, 2000, what was I doing? I mean, I first of all, I was 6, so I wasn't watching Gladiator anytime soon. And
True.
my dad was dealing with me and how old
Oh
would
dear,
my
yeah,
brother have been? A
God, Jesus.
2-year-old. He didn't have time to go to the cinema.
Did you have long hair then too?
No, I did, not as long as I do now. No. This is a first. Anyway,
You're new to Gladiator, is what we're saying.
I'm new to Gladiator. Gladiator, for anybody like me, from 48 hours ago, it is a film about the Roman Empire, specifically gladiators within the Colosseum. I mean, that's very general. That's very
And it's
general.
completely historically accurate.
Oh, 100% the most historically accurate film you've ever seen. Russell Crowe plays a general called Maximus. There's a lot of people called Maximus in this as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess it was trying for some form of accuracy. And after the death of the Emperor Marcus Aurelius.
So his son, played by Joaquin Phoenix, Commodus, is hungry as hell for his father's place whenever his father passes away.
Yeah, he wants power. He wants power,
but he's inept, and he probably will be a deviant with his power, and his father pretty much knows that, and so does his sister. But everybody appreciates and respects the General Maximus, played by Russell Crowe, and so does Marcus Aurelius Caesar. So he wants him to be the next one to pick up the throne. Obviously, Russell Crowe doesn't want to do that. He wants to go back home to his wife and kids and kid. But things aren't as back in those days. People weren't as nice, and they didn't just let you go home. No. You gotta he says, before you go home, Maximus, I want you to restore Rome back to its greatness. It's just a small task,
just
please.
a little tidy up.
So Commodus Joaquin Phoenix is having none of it, and even to the degree that he kills his own father.
Yeah,
and
to be fair, we all everybody goes on about Marcus Aurelius and how good he was in this, but would have had somebody else in the room when I was A, telling Russell Crowe I wanted him to take over, and B, when I was telling my son I didn't want him to be anywhere near my position of power.
Yeah.
That was an oversight, and a very costly one, because not only, over the course of this film did it create a lot of mess, but over the course of the next film caused a lot of mess as well. So Marcus Aurelius, you're a fool. You're a fool, buddy. I don't think
Yeah.
you're as great as everybody said you
But yeah, I guess,
are.
yeah. But it's just when Richard Harris has, those beautiful, sing-songy Irish tones in his voice, a wee whisper of that, a Dumbledore voice.
Mm,
Um, I love him in the early part of this film. So sadly, he dies 15 minutes into it. But that scene he has with Commodus with Joaquin Phoenix at the beginning of the film, where he kills him, is just like, that is probably my scene of the whole film. I mean, that bit is just like so intense and like
mm,
quite sad and moving. Like you actually do feel for both of these characters, that they're like, they just, well, he said like, my feeling as a father, your feeling as a son is my feeling as a father. And then, and just this sort of outpour that both of them make, and even the death itself, the killing, is sort of like an outburst of emotion.
mm.
Yeah, like for Ridley Scott, that's pretty good for him, actually.
Yeah, and it sets the tone very well as well, because the music is just blaring.
Oh,
It's
strings and
yeah,
yeah.
it's like, oh, this is a very heightened film about heightened emotions. This is an opera about gladiators and
That's it.
revenge.
That's it. The
Um,
movie's super simple. It's super simple.
it is
Like,
super simple. It is a revenge story. Commodus then make because obviously Russell Crowe gets a whiff of treachery. Commodus is like, well, kill his wife and
stench.
kid then.
Yeah.
And yeah, sets him and goes to kill him as well. But obviously he escapes because he's Russell Crowe and he's cool, and he can
Yes.
do sword fights with his hands tied up.
Yes. In the in the forest, yes, and kills 10 generals
He's
or
very
10
cool.
10 centurions or whatever they are.
It is very
But,
cool. I must say, like I was always aware of Gladiator, and I always wanted to watch it. I just never got. It was just one. There are some bigger films that you just never find the right time.
I
I'm
get,
never.
no, you get you.
They're the films where you have to kind of like prepare yourself for them, because you're like, I'm about to watch something that's very much beloved. So like when you're sitting down and you're like, oh, what should I watch tonight? Those films don't come up in your head. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, because you almost like, you want to leave them as sort of perfect, untouched things. Like, oh, my brain knows that it's a masterpiece, but if there's a chance that I might not like this so-called masterpiece.
Yeah,
Um,
and you want to put yourself in a headspace when you might be watching something that is potentially like gonna be really good.
yeah.
I don't know. It's difficult sometimes. If I'm just sitting down going, "Oh, what should I watch tonight?" I just put something rubbish on. Maybe I should stop doing that and just start watching Gladiator.
Welcome to the 21st century. I don't know.
It is. I don't,
It's
I don't
hard.
know what it is. I
It's
don't
how
know
we
what
numb
it is.
ourselves. Honestly, it's fine. I love, I actually really like watching this film because it reminds me, this and Master and Commander. When I watch those two films, I remind myself that the sheer like masculinity that like oozes off Russell Crowe in this period of cinema, like he doesn't do a lot in this movie. If you think about it, like he doesn't do a lot to kind of win you over. Like he's quite stoic and quite straightforward, and it's not a showy performance apart from those
Mm,
couple of lines that we all know. But he's just a movie star in this movie. You
yeah,
just look at it and he's just like, yeah, I follow that guy to the ends of the earth.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like he's very cool. He leads in a very cool way.
Yeah, a very big way.
And he's got morals. He's still he's still a general, so he's not like a great guy, but he's got morals. He's
Oh yeah,
got
he still like
values.
kills guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's a killer. He's very good at killing, but he's virtuous. There's something to him. But yeah,
yeah,
Russell Crowe's great in this. He's really good, and because this is like part one and part two, we'll get into it. But like he did leave pretty big shoes to fill, and it's difficult to find somebody who can match that. But yeah. What else do you love about Gladiator, Chris? Come on, tell me why. Tell me why you love it. I
Gladiator.
mean, I really liked it. I'm not saying I didn't love it. I really did enjoy Gladiator. I
Yeah.
also found it, and I know I just asked you a question. I'm rambling on.
No,
I am
you go
aware of
for it.
this,
You're
but I also thought, like, as somebody who's now seen things that have been inspired by Gladiator, it was like, oh, this feels like this feels like that. Like the visual style of it, I was like, this must have very much informed the visual style and like the accessibility of things like Game of Thrones. I was feeling all that kind of stuff. I was like, oh yeah, I know this. I know this. I've seen this.
yeah, especially the first. Yeah, I guess because Rome is kind of like Kane's Landing, right? It's very.
Mm,
The first 20 minutes of the film is Winterfell, and the rest of the film is sun-soaked Dubrovnik. You know, it
Yeah.
is it looks like that, right?
And all the Senate stuff, very very Star Wars prequels. And I know
But a little bit more interesting.
I don't know. I think it's somewhat interesting in Star Wars as well. But I'm just
True.
saying,
Yeah.
like, that came out the year prior. I don't think it wouldn't have influenced Gladiator because it's so close. They're probably filming at the same time. But I would say that Gladiator must have inspired George Lucas to do the Colosseum stuff in Attack of the Clones.
Oh,
It's like
100%.
beat by beat, some of the same stuff. It was like that
Yeah.
worked, and people love that. Let's just do that in Attack of the
Oh,
Clones,
yeah.
but this time they're aliens. Yeah,
Well,
Ackley.
yeah. Well, I think the Colosseum stuff is better here than it is Attack of the Clones.
It is
Although
better. It is better. Don't
probably
worry.
probably 9-year-old me probably would have disagreed with myself now, especially when I played that level in Lego form. But no, but this film is the political intrigue with great moments of epic, old school Charlton Heston esque, you know, Hollywood epic. I think it's kind of like the last, you know, stand up to that genre, isn't it? I
Mm,
mean, I think it was kind of the last one that truly bowed its head to it, and evidently it came out in the year 2000. So what a way to do it. But yeah, I think the first Gladiator arena scene when they arrived to in Rome in the Colosseum is just a scene that I always think of when I watch it. I just find it so thrilling again, and that's the thing that's so good about this film. I think it's Russell Crowe and the camaraderie he gains with his fellow gladiators. All these sort of little peripheral characters that really don't, you know, they're not big parts to play, but him sort of in the moment commanding them, earning their respect, seeing what made him that great general that we knew at the beginning, and seeing how people were led by him, and just seeing people that you kind of everybody likes to cheer for the people who are kind of going to be put up for slaughter for people's entertainment. It's just really cool to
mm.
see people fight the odds, and I think, you know, mixed with the Hans Zimmer score, all the bells and whistles, it's just visually like it's just proper switch your brain off entertainment.
Yeah, and although it's not like 100% historically accurate,
What?
there's enough historicalness in there to like get you kind of going through the
Yeah.
motions of like, oh,
Look,
what must it have
yeah.
been like in those times? It's so much
Visualizing
different.
Rome, yeah, is amazing, isn't it? It's incredible.
Very
Like,
violent.
yeah, like I've been to Rome once, and and it is incredible when you go there and you're like outside the Colosseum and you're just anywhere in the city, and it's impossible to actually imagine it in its glory. It is the sheer scale of it is unbelievable, and
Mm.
I do think that's something that Scott does really well. Is that he gives these establishing shots where you're just like, wow, what would it have been like to live there? Probably absolutely awful, because you probably would have just died. I
Yeah.
probably wouldn't last longer than a week, but it's incredible to see. But it's super entertaining. I think Joaquin Phoenix. It reminded me rewatching it again, Alex, that um, just how versatile he could be. I think we're in a position
Mm.
now where I'm a little bit. I love Joaquin Phoenix, but I would like to see him go back into variety a little bit more.
I
And
mean, he is kind of playing
yeah,
what he always plays here. He's just another man baby
in
here.
yeah, he is a man baby, but there's something a little bit more. Something a little bit more trying and like wanting to impress us more
Yeah.
than these current performances are. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, like this. I was like, oh, this is what he's good at, and like this is the original man baby, and I was very impressed by his performance here, and almost to it is a film about him and Maximus, and I don't know
Yeah.
why I was drawn, and I felt this even more in the second film, where I was actually drawn to the kind of like political nature of Rome more so than the gladiator stuff. I
Oh
love the
yeah.
gladiator stuff because it's a nice little respite, a little bit of action, spectacle, all that kind of stuff. But I was like, yeah, just I want to see. Well, go on then. How are you going to reshape Rome, and how are you going to mess this up? And also with him, you just didn't know what his next move was. Like there was a slight bit of empathy towards his character. He's not, he is a villain, but I don't think you fully hate him. I think you do hate him, but you don't.
Ugh.
I think there's an element of like you. There is an element of you feel sorry for him a little bit.
I feel sorry for him at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the movie, he's just like, love me. Like, that's all he wants.
Yeah.
He is just like, and then he is a complete creature of repression. you know, when Connie Nielsen, like, he's absolutely, as prisoner in this movie,
Mm,
and physically, but she, intellectually overpowers him 100%. But there's that scene where he's trying to stay his hands away from her when she's lying down, and she's like, if he was to rape me right now, I couldn't do anything about it. Even
mm,
that power, that lack of power you have as a woman, even if you're the sister of the emperor, you can still you're still subject to that.
mm.
And I like that. I like that Ridley Scott does that in these historical epic movies. And Gladiator 2, we'll talk about in a minute, is very similar, where he's not afraid to show the ugliness. You get the top of the food chain, but for some reason these people are more grotesque than anybody that we see in the poverty line.
Mm,
They're way more like the powdered up faces, the rotting teeth, the overindulgence and excess.
mm.
That seems to be like what makes these rulers terrible and not respected. And like, we
Yeah.
cheer for the hero. Of course, we're going to cheer for Russell Crowe and his olive sweaty skin, and yeah, he looks awesome. So it's
Yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah. He does. He does.
Should we? I think before we move on to the next film, I think it's worth shouting. I really enjoy Oliver Reed in this movie
Yes.
too. I mean, I think
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Died during the making of this film, and I think he is, just a presence you can't really ignore.
No.
Yeah, he's absolutely the moment he enters on screen and he just like absolutely berates all the gladiators and treats them like shit.
Mm.
It's just a lot of fun. Proper old school theater English larger than life performance that we love in these sort of films.
Do you think? Oh, and I don't know this because we know that Gladiator 2 takes a lot of inspiration from the first film and
Yeah,
plays around with plot points. And obviously, Oliver Reed died during the production of Gladiator, so much so that they couldn't finish filming his scenes, and that's why there's a bit later on that's like slightly superimposed and stuff. Do you think he was intended to have more of a part to play? Like,
he
do
does
you
kind
think
of like.
Denzel was kind of the where? And I know we're already jumping into Gladiator 2 a little bit, but do you think some of the plot points that revolve around Denzel were potentially like Ridley Scott fulfilling some of the storylines that he wanted
Interesting
to go into?
because his character Proximo he does declare himself later in the film as like, I was a slave once too.
Mm,
So, there's room there for that story to be written. I'm not sure. I think we were too close to the end of that film to kind of then reveal that. I don't feel like the momentum was going there.
mm.
Uh, but that is interesting. I do think there was definitely more film for him there, because he does just kind of go bye,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
see you later. Which it doesn't, you don't notice it terribly, but there definitely was that room there. But yeah, interesting. I think they probably did take bits of that, and obviously the Denzel bit, they kind of really run with it. Yeah, but still unforgettable performance. But yeah,
Mm.
I think the Gladiator exceeds on its simplicity, where Gladiator 2 probably doesn't exceed on its complications. It's
Yeah, yeah. Let's steer now into Gladiator 2.
mhm.
A film, 24 years worth of anticipation for the fans.
Was there anticipation? Like, I never felt like this was a film that we were gonna get.
No, that's true. It
You
doesn't
feel
feel in it, like watching it. I was like, oh, this doesn't feel like a film that needs a sequel at all. But I do think it's funny that I had 24 hours of anticipation for a sequel.
Did you have anticipation? Was that like, oh shit, I'm ready for this, man? I'm ready. Gladiator
I
2,
was
or like,
intrigued. I was intrigued. Yeah, I would say I was ready for it. I was like, yeah, round two. Give me a little bit more of this.
yeah.
It then is very much rehashing, repurposing plot lines from the first film. That I must say, for the first hour of the film, I was like, oh, I'm watching the same film I watched yesterday. which is my own fault. I'm just checking it out. Like it's my own fault for watching them so close together.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, it doesn't know whether it wants to be a remake or not. I feel like there were probably two scripts at some point. Like, let's just remake Gladiator or make a sequel, and they were like, no, why don't we just kind of do a bit of both?
I feel like this is just like they got really excited. The three of them, Scarpa, Craig, and Franzoni, got in the writers' room, and all three of them had little nuggets of ideas, and they all decided to run with all of them, and didn't like fully. Nothing feels polished in this movie, man. I feel like I just feel a little bit dissatisfied. We'll get into it. So this is centers mainly on Paul Mescal's character. Well, can we use the name? Which names do we use?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's funny. All right. So, as I said at the Anora review, for new listeners, we do go into spoilers. So, especially for Gladiator 2, it's very difficult to talk around certain spoilers. So, this is your warning. Go see it. If you don't want to be spoiled, go see it, come back. If not, just, roll with it. Because even on Letterboxd, it reveals in the description,
Yes,
it reveals the name of his character and who Paul Mescal actually is in all of this. And that was not something I was aware of.
Well, because she had 24 hours of build up.
Yeah, and I didn't read. All I remember was I knew Russell Crowe died in the first film. I knew that much, and that's why he wasn't coming back for the second one. But I was also in the know that like people have said, "Oh, is Paul Mescal going to play his son?" And he was like, "No, no, no. He's somebody inspired by Russell Crowe, and like he's inspired by the mythology," which led me to believe that this was like many, many years in the future. And it's only 16. I didn't expect to see any returning cast members, so I was even surprised when Connie Nielsen turned up. I was like, "Oh, this is a sequel."
Yeah,
I thought it was very much like this is 50 years, like everybody's dead. This is the inspiration from the mythology of Russell Crowe's Gladiator.
The reign of the Roman Empire is so expansive that you could just literally point your finger somewhere on the timeline and make a movie out of it, right? But yeah, I guess they want to bring people back in some way. But I guess I thought Gladiator, the name alone, would bring people back in. But so this focuses on Paul Mescal's character, and Letterboxd and IMDb will tell you that his name is Lucius, which was as well, man. They actually took. I think they announced that like a year ago that this film was going to center on the son of Connie Nielsen as character, and it's like okay. So whenever this became a reveal in the film, 2/3 in, I was like, oh, I have to sit for a scene where I'm supposed to be that care about that reveal.
Yeah, because they kind of bounce around it a lot. So if I knew going in, I would have been like, I already know, just get to the point. Whereas I wasn't, so I was fine with it.
Oh, I thought the movie was a lot like get to the point. Yeah. So after his home is conquered by the Roman Empire, led by Pedro Pascal's character, Acacius.
Daddy,
yeah.
as the internet calls him, not me. You weirdos.
Okay. I mean, he does. He's a handsome guy. He looks like a snack. He looks like a snack in some sandals and shorts.
Yeah, he's got that soft face, like you just want to give him a hug.
You do. Even when he's killing wives of Paul Mescal. Which is how this movie opens up.
Well, he doesn't actively kill her, but he does,
He indirectly, yes. He orders, yes, she fires an arrow at him.
And he says, kill her. I guess, all right, second hand.
I think he's just like, kill them, isn't he? There's a bunch of archers up there.
Which, and then Paul, that was the whole point anyway.
yeah, exactly. And then suddenly, that's the crux of the film. This is the revenge story.
Yeah. We're doing it again.
So yeah, Paul Mescal comes to, and he, similarly to Russell Crowe, is then sold into slavery, explicitly into the hands of Denzel Washington's character. He is Maximus, who is a slave trader. He specializes in gladiators, and Paul Mescal becomes his champion pretty quickly. You kind of know where that's going to go.
And he's slightly more, he's, compared to Oliver Reed's Gladiator salesman.
They're both flamboyant.
They are, but Denzel is a lot more higher up within the echelons of the Roman Empire.
Oh, he's much more politically
he's
interested.
more well regarded, and he's a bit fancier.
Oh yeah, 100%.
He's great though. Can we just say
He is
I
the
think
best thing.
he's the standout in this. I think
100%. What I really enjoyed, I think some of the actors, some of the performances, don't necessarily get lost in this film. I just think it's probably a fault of some basic screenplay and lack of direction. But Denzel's just such a seasoned veteran, obviously with his stage background. He just has these actor instincts that he just knows exactly how to get into the headspace of the character. Watching him just like in all these extravagant like capes and dresses that he wears and like all his jewelry, and he always like evokes such character into his costume. He's always playing with whatever he's wearing. He's always like the way he holds his dress up when he walks across a room. Just watching him have fun like that is, it's like an acting masterclass, and it really does stand out in this film. I think he's given one of his best performances in a while, actually. The other thing that really interested me in this film was the Pedro Pascal character. So obviously, we open up supposed to kind of be, hateful towards him, and very quickly we realize that he's a general who's under siege by the two sort of chaotic twin emperors. Who are the man babies of this film, Emperor Geta and Caracalla. Who, both one's inept and one's more inept. It's kind of
it's like Joaquin Phoenix split into two.
Yeah, it's Joaquin Phoenix mixed with Dumb and Dumber.
Yes, yeah. But interesting enough, Pedro Pascal is probably more of a Russell Crowe stand-in than anybody else in the film, because he is the general of the Roman army who wants to fight for a better Rome and is very much done with fighting. So it's interesting to put him on the villain pedestal, or what seems to be the villain pedestal at the very start of the film. So I kind of like that, like, oh, we're reversing the relationship here. But yeah.
And then when he arrives in Rome, the story completely turns. You can see he's completely like repelled by these two young leaders. And whenever they go into a Colosseum, they don't cheer the emperors, they cheer his name, Acacius, Acacius. So yeah, this is a guy you kind of root for pretty instantly, actually. And that's what kind of made it a little bit more complex for me. I was struggling to kind of get on board with Paul Mescal's character at the very beginning. I wasn't finding my way in necessarily. I don't think he's doing anything wrong.
No, I don't think it's his problem. He's like an archetype in this, isn't he? He is.
Yeah, it's hard.
He's not a character. Like, I feel terrible saying it, but he's not a character.
I think the movie wants him to be, though, doesn't it?
He's like this he's an icon almost. Like, he's like, oh, we need to do the Gladiator thing again. This is what Paul Mescal's doing.
But then why?
He isn't treated. He isn't treated like a main character either, I don't think.
You think? But why shoehorn in the whole wife dying thing and the constant backflashes of her being sent over by the ferryman and him? There's a lot of the movie is throwing a lot of its anguish that he experiences at you, but you just don't feel it. I don't know why. You just don't.
No, you don't.
There's something lost in there. I do think it is a screenplay. I think he isn't given a lot of fun stuff to say a lot of the time.
It's true. I think it's a case of, you go into this writing like, oh, Paul Mescal's the main character, but then you find yourself being like, well, actually, all the interesting stuff is happening outside of the Colosseum. Like, for me, that was what I was most, the political stuff, the stuff with Pedro Pascal, the stuff with Connie Nielsen, all the kind of, that Game of Thrones-esque, we're going to try and take power, who knows what, all this kind of stuff to get rid of the tyrannical emperors, and there's revenge and betrayal and, all these kind of different plots, that whenever you cut back to Paul Mescal, it is mainly just for an action scene within the Gladiator.
It kind of stops the movie in its tracks sometimes.
It does. And the action's good. I really like it. Like, it's fun. But I was like, all right, we're doing this again. All right, yep, he fights a rhino. Okay, back out. Let's get back outside of the Colosseum and show me the more interesting stuff. And I think you can tell that, the writers were having more fun writing those scenes than they were writing, Lucius's plot. And they also
Yeah.
bend over backwards to retcon this into him being the son of Connie Nielsen. Like, it feels very contrived. Like, there's even a scene where they're like discussing how old he would be now.
Oh yeah.
And it
Yeah.
cuts off right at the very end. Like, honestly, it feels like they were really just desperately trying to make it work somehow within the timeline.
I mean, I guess that is a conversation they would be having in real
Yeah, I
life, but in a
guess. I
film,
guess
it just feels a bit, yeah, it
it's very
feels,
silly. But
yes,
this film is very silly. Like, I know Gladiator is not without its silly moments, but this film is doubly silly. It's very, very silly.
I'm with you. I'm there for like Denzel Washington and Tim, McInerney, just like absolutely going at it with each other.
Yeah.
Being very frivolous. I did enjoy the two twins, the Emperor twins in this film. Again, like every other element, give me more, please. Give me more. If you're,
Yeah.
I thought it was a little bit toned down. I was like, oh, we're gonna get some sick shit with these guys, but
Yeah.
like it was a wee bit. I was a little bit like, oh, it was Austin Butler light.
Yeah.
It
It
was
was
doing, yeah,
interesting as well. Like, the marketing was very heavy on Joseph Quinn and not so much on Heshinger. Fred Hetchinger? I'm not actually sure how you pronounce his last name. We'll go for that.
yeah,
But I didn't realize he was even in it until very late in the day. I don't know if you
yes,
were the same way, but again, I wasn't following the marketing as much because I hadn't seen the first film, so that might just be me.
yeah.
Um,
Joseph Quinn's, he's kind of a
he's the up and
hot
comer,
name.
isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the up and comer. I will say this though, Fred Hetchinger, he's in Nickel Boys, and I love Nickel Boys. I'm just
Yes,
saying, you're gonna love him in Nickel Boys, or
you sold that movie to
you know,
me. I'm really excited.
like love seeing him,
Mm-hmm.
maybe not love him.
Okay. Oh, right. Not good.
Well,
So
maybe.
maybe. Like, honestly, I think strip away the Lucius character
Yeah.
and make this film about Pedro Pascal. I think
Uh,
maybe make or flash that out a little. There was just a little bit. It that had emotional heft in there that just wasn't ever realized. I don't know. I just think that story was like that was what intrigued me, and I wanted more, and I didn't
yeah.
get it, and
Yeah.
it was dead in the water before it really kind of got to me.
Dead in the water with the great white sharks of Rome.
Oh my god! Oh my goodness! And yeah, dog baboons.
Yeah. Well, they are like just monkeys.
I think
Monkeys.
they were like interbred
I think
baboons.
that's just
They had
like
like a different anatomy. They had
I
like
think that's just old. Monkeys
old
have evolved.
baboons.
Yeah, they've evolved over time, Chris. They don't look like they do now.
I mean, I guess it's like 2,000 years.
I don't think it was like a Hunger Games thing. I don't think it was like hybrid dog monkeys.
I don't. I wouldn't put it past Ridley Scott. I
I guess
really wouldn't.
then again, I'm. He did also, historically, you can fill the Colosseum up with water. They did do that,
To puddle height.
but great white sharks,
Great white sharks.
great white sharks.
Where were they keeping them? Like in the Roman aquarium? Where
I
was
know.
this?
Even the bloody Plymouth Aquarium couldn't keep the sharks alive when they first introduced them there. That's a
I
very
mean,
local story, but I'm just saying they couldn't.
and like sharks are quite. Oh, why are we getting into the machinations? This is so. It's just so.
It's a
beneath
silly
us.
film. It's a silly film.
It's a silly film, but like it shouldn't be, right? It should be like under your skin, cheering at the screen, but like sort of revolting at the same time. Like I don't know.
It should be as silly as it was. Like, I'm fine with a little bit of silliness. Like I had a lot of fun with this film. I think it wasn't until it started being a bit more different than the first film, because I think the first hour is like just replaying the greatest hits, and you're like, oh, not this again. Like, and maybe it worked for some fans who wanted to see, that again. But for me, who had just seen the first film, I was like, I just saw this. I don't need this again. And it wasn't until the reveal of him being Lucius, and then all the relationships suddenly shifted because Connie Nielsen was like, "Well, I need you to help him in the ring," to Pedro Pascal, and then all of a sudden the hero villain dynamic changes. And I think this is another reason why, Lucius and Paul Mescal don't get that chance to shine, is because you are always one step ahead of him in the film.
Yes.
So the fight between him and Pedro Pascal that comes in later, you're like, don't kill him.
Yes.
But really, if the film, wanted us to feel something in that moment, you want to feel the vengeance.
Yes, yeah.
Um,
The film, that's the problem with the
it
film, I
takes it
think,
away
is
from him.
you're always one step ahead of this film.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. And I think then, and the last third of this film gets really bogged down in some pretty low stake conversations and getting wrapped up in the legacy stuff. I know you quite. I remember you saying to me that you kind of appreciated the conversations that he had with Ravi, the doctor guy that looks after him. I was like, oh, we got like 6 scenes of that, and I got really exhausted from that
There are
myself
too many
too.
of them, but they are the moments that kind of show a little bit of camaraderie,
Yeah,
which is nice within that setting, and it's Paul Mescal softening a little bit as well, which is
yeah,
always, it's somebody who is in a tough situation and has to act, with anger, and this great sense of like masculinity, and all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
To see him soften up, I thought it was nice. I
Some
yeah, I didn't. There were a few of those scenes, like and it was almost as like, and here's the scene where
yeah.
they talk whilst he has his wounds healed. I was like, okay,
Yes,
doing another one
exactly.
of these.
Yeah. And
But
it's like I it's funny like how he picks and chooses who he's carried over from the first film and who's not.
mm,
And like it's funny you get somebody like Derek Jacobi in a couple of scenes in this
yeah,
film, and you're like, the oldest guy from the first movie is like in the sequel. It's like, how is this guy still around? And then they kill him off in such a weird way as well. He just gets like stabbed in the arena later
yeah,
on.
yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting. It's a little bit of a head scratcher. Like I was entertained by Denzel Washington. I think the spectacle is definitely there. I do love some of like just the details that Ridley Scott throws into these sort of films. I love the opening, seeing the belly of these ships, seeing the slaves
Mm,
underneath, and kind of getting to into the thought process of what it would have been like to live in one of these ships as a slave, and in Rome. It dabbles with that, but that's the problem for me. It dabbles its hand in too many things, and nothing ever felt super satisfying for me. Yeah, and I will watch Gladiator 1 again and again. I
mm.
can't see myself ever watching Gladiator 2 again. That's
Well,
the
like
difference. That's
never
the
again,
distinction.
never again.
I don't know. I mean, there's not really enough, I don't think, to kind of make me return to this 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, I've only seen both of them once, so I don't know in the future where my feelings will lie. But yeah,
Yeah.
if anything, I would definitely be more up for watching the first Gladiator again over the second. But yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's silly. It doesn't. It rehashes and tries to restyle plot points from the first film a little too much for my liking.
It's the problem with Ridley Scott, though. I don't think he knows he's being silly.
No, it does come across that way, doesn't it? In interviews,
Yeah.
he seems quite self assured.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of one of the things that's funny about him.
Yeah, yeah, it is interesting. But he does he chucks out these films so fast.
Oh, yeah. Where does he get the money?
Wow.
I do love the opening animated scene, the
Mm.
extension of the Scott Free logo into the recap. That's quite fun. I
Yeah,
like that.
that was nice. That was nice. I like that. I like that. There's a lot of moments in Gladiator 2 to like.
There is moments, yeah.
There's a lot of moments. But there's also a lot of moments which just kind of turn me off a little bit. But for me, it got better as it went along, and then I think for you, I think it got worse.
I just got exhausted.
Yeah,
I just saw where it was going, and I was like, I kind of I checked out a little bit, two
yeah,
thirds in, and I was like, there's not really. I know there's not really much else this can do for me now. I
yeah,
just kind of gotta like enjoy what I can.
yeah,
Look, my expectations weren't sky high. I know. Again, I'm not.
yeah, yeah.
I love Gladiator, but I'm not like. I haven't got bloody posters of Russell Crowe up in my bedroom.
Mm.
It's a movie I really like. I was just looking forward to seeing this. Didn't know it was a sequel we were going to get. And yeah, it's fine. I can see people having a lot of fun with this. It just, yeah, I mean, it's just a diminished return for me. That's all it
Mm.
is.
Mm.
But I think
Okay.
you like. I think you like a little bit more.
I
And
think I do. I think I do. But I don't have the baggage and the anticipation or anything like that. Which is and therefore because of that, I also disliked certain elements of it more. So yeah, it's a mixed bag for me. It's not going to make my top 10. of the
No,
year. You know,
no.
it's not going to be near it. But I think there's fun to be had. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I was happy.
I
I
wouldn't
was
say people.
entertained.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the tagline of Gladiator 2 is, um, isn't it just prepare to be entertained or something? I
Oh,
think
is
it's
it?
something like that. Yeah,
That's quite
it's
funny.
quite
Oh, it is.
it's.
Yes, it is. Yeah, yeah. I've just seen it.
I
Are
mean,
you
that's a
are you
statement.
not prepared to be entertained?
Is that your Russell Crowe?
Yeah. Why? I don't understand why Paul Mescal tried to do the Russell Crowe voice.
That's another thing for me too, Alex. I feel like Paul Mescal never found his voice.
Mm,
I feel like scene to scene, his pitch and tone was just like different. Like he was trying, like I feel like he never found a resting place like where this character. I don't feel like he ever settled into the character. Is the
mm,
thing. The rage thing is there. He's great at the choreography, and look, he is one of my favorite actors around at the moment. So if, you know, it's not a hate campaign at all. I just don't think him and Scott kind of came to a conclusion of where this guy was,
mm.
and I never really believed him to be the young long-haired boy who grew up in Rome and
No,
suddenly here. And I know he goes through a lot of shit and everything like that, but I never believed that he came from that. You know what I mean?
I agree. I agree. But you're right. I also agree that I don't think it's Paul Mescal's fault in this. It's good to see him.
It's
Yeah.
hard mantle to pick up.
I mean, we know he's fantastic. We've seen him in things where he has been utterly fantastic. Yeah, it's just this kind of film. I think let him down a little bit, um, but not his fault.
Which is a
It's
shame
nice
because
to see him in such a big role, and hopefully he'll get some more.
that's why it's sad because I think for like a vast majority of people, this will be their first exposure to him on the
Mm,
bigger on in a cinematic scale, for general audiences anyway. So, yeah, hopefully, yeah, I mean, hopefully they enjoy the performance and that doesn't like but I
yeah,
want
I
him to
don't.
be
I don't think it's a performance that's going to turn anybody off.
no, 100%.
No, and come back and go watch him in After Sun.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
yeah,
he's
oh
fantastic in that. All of Us Strangers.
yeah. I haven't watched normal people the TV show.
No, do you know? I just ordered the book though, because I'm in my reading. I'm in a bit of a reading phase at the moment,
Oh yeah,
and the other reason I want to
Book,
watch Normal
bookish
People.
Alex,
Pardon?
bookish Alex, we call you.
Bookish me, yes. Is it was directed by Lenny
Mm.
Abramson, who directed Frank and
Oh, one of
Room,
your favorite movies.
one of my favorite movies. And it was just one of those ones I never got around to because it's TV, and it's just TV. It just takes up
Was
my
it like a
time.
BBC production?
Yeah, it's supposed to be
Originally,
really
yeah.
good. It's supposed to be really good. And everybody's going on about Sally Rooney's new book, and I thought, I
It's a
don't
good
know.
time.
Maybe I should read Normal People. It's quite short, I think.
Okay.
Anyway, another tangent. But yeah, no, I actually just ordered it. Yeah, I'm gonna read it. I'll let you know.
There we go.
I'll lend it to you afterwards.
So I think Gladiator 2, guys, we're pretty mixed on it.
Mixed bag. If it's still in the cinema, go watch Anora.
Oh, 100%. I think it's not, though, by the time of this recording.
It'll be re-released when it wins the Oscars.
Hell yeah.
I wanted to bring a quiz to you this time. I thought maybe I'll test your knowledge on how much you actually like Gladiator and all that kind of stuff like that. But I thought maybe that would be unfair to just kind of test your knowledge on Gladiator when I didn't really know much either. So instead, you know how men apparently think about the Roman Empire a lot. That was
Yes,
like a
I've heard
thing
that.
it was like a
Yeah.
thing.
As a
No,
statistic.
it was never a thing for me. I don't know about you. I don't really think about the Roman Empire, but maybe that's
It,
because I never watched Gladiator. Was that the case for you?
yeah, isn't there a statistic where it's like every man will, on average, think about the Roman Empire like something like 50 to 100 times his life, something like that in his lifetime or something like
I
that,
think
just
it was like
randomly,
every day. It was like
or
once an
every
hour or
day.
something. Yeah, it was something ridiculous.
And especially if you're a Monty Python fan, I mean, you're thinking about that all
Yeah.
the time.
I feel like I really don't think about the Roman Empire that much. Every now and then, maybe
Subconsciously.
like roads.
Like when you watch Star Wars, you probably there's a little bit of your mind that thinks about Rome, and there's like a lot of
No,
things, isn't there?
I don't.
You don't see columns like and think Rome,
Yeah, maybe like statues.
pizza.
Yeah, but I don't think of Rome or
Yeah,
Romans.
Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, where are you going with this,
Yeah, sorry,
Alex?
I was going to test your knowledge of Roman history instead, but don't worry. It's from the Beano. Do you remember the Beano?
The Beano, yeah. Do they
Yeah.
still sell that? It's
Well,
like
there's a website. So yeah, no, I think they still do have a Beano comic,
yeah,
Dennis the
Dennis the
Menace,
Menace and
yeah,
etc. Yeah,
and etc.
that's about it. Some big muscly guy at the front cover
Nasher,
sometimes.
Dan, Dastardly Dan. Oh no, that was Dando, Dando,
The Dandy,
the
yes, that was
Dandy.
another magazine. Yeah,
Yeah,
but that
that's.
wasn't our generation, I don't think.
Oh no, I had the Dandy as well.
Oh,
Maybe it was my generation or your
he
generation.
lived in a time
I
machine or
definitely
something.
used to like go to the shops, and Mum would like pick up a Beano comic every now and then, or a
Yeah, you
Dandy
get a little
comic.
toy with it or something.
Yeah. Anyway, here I am. I'm gonna test your knowledge of Roman history to see how much you actually think about it. Um,
God,
you're gonna hate this. According to the legend, who was the dad of Romulus and Remus? Was it Jupiter, Mars, Pluto, or Goofy?
Goofy. No, I'm feeling. Why is my mind going to Pluto?
You want Pluto?
I'm
I've
gonna go
already,
Pluto.
damn, I already pressed Goofy now. I don't know. I'm not gonna know.
Did you actually press Goofy?
I'm not gonna know to the end.
Do you
Apparently,
think so little of me?
I should have thought through this quiz. We're gonna go through the questions, and I'll tell you the answers at the end.
Okay.
What was the name of the first Roman road? Was it the Via Appia, the Via Appia, the Via Nappia, or the A23?
Oh my god, this is so embarrassing. No, honestly, this is awful because
I
like
don't
there
have a
are there
clue.
are genuinely people listening to this that will know these answers and will think I'm a fucking idiot, and they'd be right. Uh, I'll go for the Napa.
The Via Nappia, yeah.
Yeah,
All right, we're going for it. Which two famous walls were built in Britain by the Romans? Hadrian and Adrian, Hadrian and Cicero, Hadrian and Antoine, Antoine, or Hadrian and Claudian?
I know Hadrian's definitely one. Um, oh my god, that's so bad. I thought it was just Hadrian. Hadrian's the one you hear about.
Yeah. I mean,
Hadrian
because I
and
don't know the answers, maybe I can chime in here. I feel like Hadrian and Adrian.
Do you think so? Like I
Adrian's
never
wall
feel
and
like I never
Hadrian's
hear anyone
wall.
go, "Oh, Adrian's wall," or like, yeah, but it's an easy, yeah. I only hear the H before.
Claudian's wall, Antoine's wall. I don't know. A N T
Is it
O N
Antoine
I.
or?
Antoine. Yeah.
I gotta
God,
go for that.
you
Do you want
really.
to go for that?
Are you going for that? All right, I've clicked.
Are we doing this together now?
I've clicked it now. Yeah, we're doing it together.
We're teaming this up.
Yeah. Which famous warrior queen led a rebellion against the Romans in 60 AD? Was it Joan of Arc, Queen Elizabeth II, Queen Elizabeth I, or Boudicca?
Obviously,
Boudica.
the last. I mean,
Boudica?
that's
Boudica?
that's an obvious
Yeah, we know
process
Joan
of
of Arc.
elimination.
Yeah, we know. Joan of Arc was French from our previous episodes. What did Roman soldiers typically carry with them? Was it a shield, knife, and wallet, a sword, shield, and spear, a sword, shield, and lunchbox, or a bow and arrow?
What was the first one again?
Sword, knife, and wallet. And then the second one was sword, shield, and spear, which could be one of them.
Yeah, like you never know what like how much of this is just Hollywood bullshit. You know what I mean?
I feel like
Like the
sword, shield, and spear. They were very speary people.
well, yeah, actually, probably more spear than sword. Actually, it's only because like it's so cinematic that we see them with swords all the time. But there's something about the wallet thing that intrigues me. Like that's like guy needs to carry his dinars
Yeah, but
somewhere,
a
doesn't he?
shield, knife, and wallet. So they just walked around with a tiny
Yeah,
little knife.
I will go for the spear because that seems the most obvious way.
Yeah, I love how this has turned into a quiz that I'm just being part of now because I don't know. I thought it would tell me the answers straight
No,
away.
it's good. It splits the stupidity in half.
Exactly. Oh, you gotta love it on the film angle, guys. Rome was founded in 753 BC. True or false? I'm going to say false because
I'm gonna say false.
we heard something about AD just a minute ago, didn't we? And
No, I
Romans
think
were around during Jesus times.
yeah, but that's still like the tail end of Roman Empire,
Oh,
right?
wait a second. Romans found BC. I'm getting BC and AD
Yeah,
wrong.
but like,
Oh man,
but the
I've looked
Romans
so
still
stupid
existed in
this
some
episode.
capacity. They still existed in some capacity up a few hundred years into after the birth of Christ,
Yeah.
at least. I don't know. I feel like they were just a little wrong. I'm just going to say false because it's more likely false than true, right?
Okay,
many
well, I've
years.
clicked it. What did the Romans build to transport large amounts of water over long distances with
Oh,
great white sharks in them?
yes. I know that.
Barrels, pipes, aqueducts, or wagons?
Aqueducts.
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 What did Romans watch at the Colosseum? Was it sporting events, opera, dancing, or plays?
Sporting events?
Yeah, I would say so, considering what we just watched. Which city in the Roman Empire was destroyed by a volcano in 79 AD? Was it Messenia, Alexandria, Pompeii, or Rome? I think we know this
Well,
one. It's
I
got to
think
be Pompeii, right?
it's got to be Pompeii.
Unless that was like a lot more after. I don't know.
Well, go with the one we know, right?
Yeah. Which of the following was not a Roman ruler? I've just seen this.
What is it like? Is it gonna fucking Donald Duck?
It's gonna, yeah, pretty much.
McDonald's?
Julius Caesar, Otto Octavius,
Otto Octavius?
Octavian, Augustus, or Nero. So we know it's Otto Octavius, right?
Yeah, it's not Doc Ock.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, we scored 7 out of 10. All right, here we go. I'm going to tell you which ones you got
That's
right.
okay.
This is on you. So you said Goofy was the dad of Romulus and
I
Remus.
did not. I retconned that.
That's not what the
That was a
quiz
joke.
says.
It's a joke answer.
What did you say it was? Pluto.
Pluto.
Yeah, well, you're wrong as well. It was
Okay.
nearly knocked my mic off. It was Mars.
I was
All
too
right.
distracted by the two young boys suckling the teats of that dog. I couldn't think of who their parents were.
All right, Chris, that's a bit much.
Not
For anybody,
in that way.
for anybody who hasn't seen Gladiator 2, they're just going to find you real creepy right now.
Romulus and Remus. I knew the statue before the movie.
All right, anyway, the road was not
Yeah.
the Via Appia, it was the Via Appia, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, actually. Which two walls were built in Britain by the Romans? It was Hadrian and Antoine, like you said,
Yay.
if that's how you spell that. Or pronounce that. Yeah, we got it right with the queen who led rebellion against the Romans. It was Boudica. And we were correct with what Roman soldiers carry, which was sword, shield, and spear. We were wrong about Rome being founded in 753 BC. That was true, not false.
Okay.
And we were correct about the aqueducts to transport large amounts of water. And we were correct about the Colosseum. And we were correct about Pompeii. And we were correct. Otto Octavius was not a Roman ruler.
Ah, good. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure about that one.
The folly of our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Easy, to think it would be him though.
Yeah, very Roman name. Not really. Anyway, that has been a very silly trivia question section for this week's episode of the Film Angle. We will do more research in the future, so it's not as silly as that, maybe. Or maybe you liked how silly it was.
I quite like it.
Thank you to the Beano. They're not paying me. I just found them online. But thank you to the Beano for my
so that was from the Beano. I was wondering where the Beano element was there, but yeah.
Yeah, no. Thank you to the Beano for my childhood. All right. Chris, how did you find reviewing a film again properly?
I realized that I need more work. I need to work on it more.
Yeah, I thought the same. I thought you were out of
out of sorts.
Out of sorts. No, I'm joking. That was good fun. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too.
We will be back again next week. Maybe something different. Maybe something not different. Who knows? We'll let you know. The schedule's very up in the air at the end of the year. But we are getting stuff out, and there is definitely some stuff lined up that we're very, very excited about. So yeah, keep going. Keep listening.
Keep on trucking.
Please. That has been the episode for this week. If you've enjoyed it, make sure to leave us a 5-star rating or review. We do really appreciate it. And if you'd like to keep up to date with us, make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at The Film Angle.
We also have a Film Angle playlist. If you want to listen to what we listen to, you can find that in the show notes. Be sure to catch us next week for more cinematic discussions. But for now, goodbye.
Bye.
See ya.